Hey guys, my name is Ismas and welcome to Top Channel 101. So today we're going to be looking at how to turn any image logo into a logo animation. So we have gone to Google here and just downloaded this image, but you can choose any image you want. If you follow the steps that I'm doing here, you should arrive at the same result as I am, or maybe even better if you choose a better logo. But yeah, let's jump right in and see how to do that. By the way, you can let me know what you want to see next by leaving a comment in the comments, or like the video so that I can know that this is the kind of content you want. Anyway, let's jump into Blender. I'm just going to drag this logo directly into Blender. I'll drop it in. Just reset its rotation by using Alt R. Let me turn on my shortcut so that you guys can see what I'm doing. I want to trace out this logo, so I'm going to go to the object data, which is this image here, and turn on opacity so that the opacity is not too bright. It makes it much easier to trace. I'm going to trace this logo. I'm just going to use plane, so Shift A, plane, rotate it 90 degrees, go to edit mode, and now just move these vertices around. I can also go to wireframe by hitting Z and just line these in wireframe just like that. I'm not going to be too precise. Yeah, I can also do the same here. Okay, for this I can just start with a single edge and just like that. Now for the text, you don't really have to trace it. You can just use a text object, and I'll call this channel 101, top channel 101. Maybe let me keep it caps. If your logo has a different font, you can just go to the text here, font, and select the font you want. If you don't find the font you want here, just go download it and install it. It will be installed in the Windows folder, Windows Fonts folder, and you'll be able to access it here. Or you can just copy it somewhere on your desktop, to that desktop, and just find the font there. I'm just going to use, I don't know, something simple, maybe that. You can see how our logo is looking. You don't need this anymore. We don't need it anymore. We can just have it here in the roof of this closer. Okay. Now let's start working on the animation. The first thing I'm going to do is give this some thickness. Since we are working in a 3D space, let's give it a Z component so that is thicker. Now also the text, for the text you can't just extrude it. You just have to go to the font data, geometry, and then use the extrude option there. I also want to give this a bevel, so I'm going to go to the bevel settings and just round that off a bit. For this, I'm going to go to the modifiers and add a bevel modifier, just like that. Increase this. Now if you increase the amount of the bevel and you don't see anything, try to go to the geometry in the bevel settings and turn off clamp, release the bevel. You can see now that works. We can also turn on harden normals, but that will also require that we set auto smooth. So to auto smooth, just go to the object data and then normals, auto smooth, like that. Now to turn this into an animation, what we're going to do is just separate all these components. So I'm going to select everything, hit P, separate by loose parts. Let me turn on random colors here, and you can see now each of these elements is separate. I also want to reset their origins, so I'm going to go select all of them, origin, set origin to geometry, and that will make sure that the origin is at the center of these pieces, like that. Now the harder part to animate I think is going to be this, but we can come to that later. But for this, let's just start with go to the timeline here, go to maybe frame 50, and just give them a keyframe. You can hit I and select available to give them a keyframe, and then go to the start of the timeline and rotate them using individual origins. Right now they're just rotating by the middle point. To make sure that they are rotated by the origin, just hit the period key on your keyboard and then find the individual origins, and then just give them a random rotation. You can actually just rotate each one randomly, and now you see that this needs more rotation. So now you see they'll just rotate back in place. And you can also go to the first frame and move them forward. And now they will just come back into place like that. But I don't want them to all just go in at the same point. I want to start with this, and then this goes, and then this. So I'll select these two, offset their keyframes, and then select the last one, offset its keyframe. So you can see they have that one goes in, the next, and the next, and the next. There isn't a lot of ways to animate text in Blender, unless you're using geometry nodes, which is also a different monster to tackle if we wanted to go into that. So let's just convert this text object into a mesh so that we can make it animated. I'm also going to make the same trick of separating these these letters into individual letters and then animate them in the same way. So if we just go into edit mode and hit P, separate loose parts, you'll see that you have more than a few you have more parts than you expect. So instead of doing that, maybe that's what you want, but for this that's not what I'm going for. Make sure that every letter is a single object. All you have to do, make sure you go into edit mode, select all the points, and then by using Ctrl A and then hit M, then merge by distance like that, and you see that you have removed quite a lot of vertices. And now if we go back and hit P, separate by loose parts, you can see now we have each letter as an individual letter. And now we need to make sure that the origin is at the center of each letter, not at the center of the first letter. So we're going to do origin to object. So each object is rotated like that. And now to animate this, let's make sure we set a keyframe at frame 50? You can have this at frame 60. A keyframe there, and I go to the first frame, move them far away from the screen, and I give them a random rotation. You can also just search for random transform, and that should allow you to randomize the transformation. Now mostly what I want to randomize is the rotation, so I can just randomize the rotation here. Let's see, 100 by 100. That should give us a random rotation. Okay, and now they all rotate back, but I want them to be scattered around. So I'm just going to come back here. Actually, let me just use the random rotation transform again. This time using this. So they all start off screen and scattered, and when we play back, they all come back like that. Another thing I could do is also animate the camera. So we want the start position to be there. So I'm just going to set a keyframe at the end there, and then at the start position, we can start everything off like this. I wanted to actually look at some of these pieces, and maybe we can also have these pieces start way off. You know what? I think I can also make them larger. They will scale back to what we want, and might also want to offset, give them a slight rotation. Then maybe move the camera a bit slower. These letters should also be offset. If you expand the summary, you can see all the letters, keyframes. Now you can offset them by selecting one by one. Okay, it's a bit reversed. So okay, the one should be the last to come here. One other thing we could do is duplicate this text. I can Shift D, duplicate this, remove all the text, all the keyframes, just get the random transform and randomize the transformation and the rotation like that. But so we can make this easier. I'm just going to have a collection called these letters because I need to select these multiple times, and having them in a collection will make it easier. So I want to duplicate these a few times. So we have a bunch of letters, and I can Shift G, select all the letters in the same collection like that, and grab the transform randomization again. And I want them to go off at the end, to be way out there in the back, and at the beginning we can start off maybe there. Can also bring back the transform random. So you can't tell which letter becomes part of the text until, yeah, something like that. I think should be good. And now let's work on the lighting. Basically making this look good. Let's go into, we're going to test out this in Blender, in Eevee and Cycles. So let's start with the text here. I'm going to go to shading, the shading tab. Let me turn the world down, get a light, an area light, like that. Maybe give it a bluish light. Maybe bring the timeline make sure we're not recording anything. Maybe we can also have a light at attached to the camera. You can see the letters. You can also add a volume object, and turn the visibility to wire. Principal volume shader, principal volume. One. Now this can get a very reflective material, so just bring this to metallic. The roughness can be really down. I'm going to use my texture folder add-on just to bring in some textures. Let me find some grunge maps. Links are in the description if you want to get this one or any of my other add-ons. Grab this. Just going to use object mapping. Give this a bump, some bump detail. Now right now there isn't much to reflect, so let's add an area light. You can see that's going to be what this reflects. But the issue is that if we are in Eevee, this is also going to add some volumetrics. So let me just turn that off for these lights. Yeah, I think I can just grab these, have the same material. Actually, I can just grab everything. I think I can touch these lights to the camera. Yeah, this It's how our animation is going to look. Bring down maybe the density of this. Give it some color. You can add other lights. Actually, what we should have done, instead of using duplicating these, let me actually just grab them, Shift G, delete them. We should just have created a particle system to handle the extra letters. So let's do that. Replace. It's much easier to control. So let's give this particle system the falling the wrong direction. So let's go to the field weights, kind of gravity, and the velocity should be -10 for the normal, so that the particles are going in the normal direction like that. And we don't want to start off with a fewer particles and then going in. So I'm going to start at negative frame. Let's say -50. The end life should be 300, and the lifetime, let me make it 200. I want the end frame, the start frame should be -100, so that we always have some particles at frame 1 already in the scene like that. Now for what to render, we're going to render a collection, and we want to render a collection of our letters, which was T. The collection was T, so the scale should be 1. I shouldn't randomize the scale, but let me put in random rotation, dynamic, so that the letters have some angular rotation, and randomize. Yeah, I think that's much better. Now with this, we can even control how many particles we want, how many letters we want. And I don't want letters to be going through that through our logo. So what I'm going to do is just make sure we have a hole here, so that no particles are emitted within there. And that should ensure that we don't get any intersecting particles. And I think I can add an area light. The end life should be maybe something like 100. No, the lifetime should be something like 100. And back here, just going to add a very strong light, point light. With very strong point light. That way in the back. Let me see. Now we can play with the contrast. I can play with the colors here. Just going to use my add-on for that. Come back here. And I think we're done. Thanks for watching. If you want to look at the project files, they'll be available on my Patreon page. Links are in the description. Thank you.